friends, it's Kylie from Theme Parks for Grown-Ups. I am your local theme park expert and Orlando realtor, here to talk about a subject that I've been getting some questions about: the pros and cons of living in Orlando or moving to Orlando. Let's get started. Now, side note, caveat, whatever you want to call it, yes, I am a realtor, but this video I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible. This video is not trying to convince you to move here or live here or buy a house here. If you want to do those things, you can contact me. I'll put my email at the bottom of the screen and in the description below. But really, this is my way of being as honest as possible with you, so you can decide if Orlando is the best choice for you and if you want to move here. So I'm going to try to be as honest as I can, and then you can kind of decipher from there. Second part to this caveat, this is going to be a pro and con list, and at the end I'm going to talk about how affordable Orlando is. Now, this is something that is not necessarily a pro or a con. It really depends on where you're coming from, so I will get into the nitty-gritty of that, and it's kind of a nuanced question, so I'll give you a nuanced answer as far as how affordable Orlando can be. Okay, first pro, let's just get the obvious one out of here. This is a place for theme parks, obviously. I moved here for theme parks. A lot of people move here to be closer to the theme parks and the recreation around here, more specifically Disney World. A lot of people move here for Disney World, and I can see why. It's a beautiful place to live, and you're really close to a theme park, and especially if that's a part of your life, you visited here all the time, maybe you worked here, and you want to come back and live near the theme parks, that's definitely an option. I did it, and you can too. It's pretty amazing to be close to everything. Everything that I love to do. You can be, a 30-minute, 20-minute drive to Universal Orlando, Disney World, or SeaWorld, and you can go anytime you want. Obviously, get your Florida resident annual pass and get a little bit of a discount. It's kind of the coolest thing ever to be able to just walk into a theme park pretty much whenever I like. It's pretty awesome. In a lot of towns, they don't have a lot to do. Like, I came from a really small town, so be able to walk into a theme park anytime I want, kind of amazing. Even better if you have kids, and obviously, you want to run some energy out of them and then want to go to the theme park and throw them in there. That's another option too. I will say a lot of locals actually don't go to the theme parks as often as I imagine they did, but a lot of people move here out of town to live next to the theme parks. So that is definitely a huge perk. And not only do those 3 theme parks exist, but you're actually really close to Tampa. It's about an hour and a half away from Orlando, and that is where you're gonna find Busch Gardens, and that's a pretty awesome theme park too. So keep that in mind. You're just kind of near a lot of places. If you don't like theme parks, well, maybe it's not for you. But I mean, if you like them okay, it might be a good place for you to come to. There's a lot of opportunity here, especially for entertainment. And piggybacking on the theme park idea and recreation and things, outside of the theme parks, there is a lot more to be seen. A lot of entertainment, not just theme parks. For instance, we have a ton of outdoor recreation here. Now, you might be aware of our wildlife and how crazy it can be, which I will get to in a second when we get into our cons. But I will say that there's a lot of natural parks around here that are just gorgeous. So obviously we have beaches. Orlando is very centralized, middle of the state. And so either way you drive, either coast, you're gonna find really beautiful beaches. On the East Coast, you have the Space Coast is what they call it, because NASA and SpaceX are over there. And that's where you can watch a rocket launch from the beach. That's a pretty fun thing to do, I will say. I've done it a couple of times, and it's kind of awesome to be able to see that go up in the air and just watch it launch. And so you have some beaches over there like Daytona and Melbourne Satellite Beach, and then of course the cute little quaint town of St. Augustine, not too far away from Orlando. I definitely advise visiting that town if you're living here or if you're moving here. So you have that coast over there, and then on the other side, on the West Coast, you're gonna have things like St. Pete, and obviously the beaches around Tampa. I'm gonna plug for a second Treasure Island. It's a really beautiful spot, a really beautiful beach that I went to on a solo trip, and there's a really fun restaurant there called Frenchie's, and they're actually a chain restaurant here in Florida, so maybe locals are kind of rolling their eyes because it's a little touristy, but I really love it because they have really good beachy cocktail drinks, and then of course you're right there on the beach, and they have their own like patio furniture or whatever, like beach chairs and stuff that you can sit down on and have it for the day while you're eating and drinking, and it's pretty dang amazing. So yeah, beaches, obviously fantastic. Outside of beaches, we have national parks and we have the springs. So I've never been in a spring before, coming from Washington State. And here, the weather is so nice that you can like take a dip in the nice cool spring, and it's really beautiful. Like the water in the springs are crystal blue, and during manatee season, you can go out and like rent a kayak and see if you can find any manatees. We actually saw a couple of manatees on our little kayaking adventure, and it was just amazing. So just know that there is some outdoorsy things that you can do. Yeah, it's warm here. We'll get into weather in a second for our cons, but that just makes it nicer in the cooler months, and you can do a little more outdoorsy adventures. So the next thing I want to talk about is one of my favorite topics, and you should already know that if you are subscribed to my YouTube channel or you follow me on Instagram. Food! I love to talk about food, and I am so glad that Orlando has a lot of food to offer and a lot of good coffee to offer too. Obviously, like I said, come from Seattle, Washington, best coffee in the world, and so I knew I was going to be missing it when I moved here. I knew it was going to be one of those things that I knew I was going to lack in such a word. But as I got to know the local Orlando standbys, the restaurants, the cafes, the coffee shops, I learned that Orlando can be a bit of a foodie city. Is it as like foodie as New York or Brooklyn or other places? No, not really, but it does have a lot of great dining and a lot of good places to go, especially those little local nooks that you might not know about. And you should definitely follow me on Instagram, by the way, because I highlight a lot of those local nooks, a lot of those restaurants and bars and places like that. Because obviously I go those places all the time. And it depends on the district that you're in, and so some districts are more foodie heavy. So like Mills 50, for example, is a ton of good food up there, a lot of Asian inspired food, and then some of the best places I love, like Black Rooster Taqueria. Goodness, that is a good place to eat. And then downtown there's a few places that are good, and just kind of scattered around Orlando there's a lot of good restaurants. Doesn't matter what you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for good tacos, we have plenty of that. Agave Azul, Rocco's Tacos, Bar Taco, those are three of my favorites. And then outside of that, we have like great ramen. I mean, obviously maybe ramen at 90-degree weather doesn't sound too appealing to you, but get here long enough and you're gonna be craving some ramen, and you should definitely try out Domu. It's fantastic. And there's also like good pho places. I'm a big fan of pho. We have a lot of pho in Seattle, and so coming here, didn't know if I could find it, but I could find it, so I found it here. And then as far as like coffee goes, lots of good options for that. I love Craft and Common and Lineage. Lineage just happens to be right next to my office, and so I go there pretty much every day. And then good desserts too. So many good desserts, so many good places. Like to name a few, the Salty Donut, classic, delicious donuts. Like they have the cool, like they put cool stuff together like guava and cream cheese, and it's just amazing. And Disney Springs, we have Salt and Straw now. Just want to throw that out there because it was a staple in Portland. It actually started in Portland, which is my hometown, and then it came here, and Salt and Straw is amazing ice cream. And then as far as local ice cream goes, there's Kelly's ice cream. It's very infamous, so you should try there. And then there's Glass Knife up in Winter Park. Like that's a really great place too. So it's just tons. Those are just a few examples to give you an idea, and keep up on like local places outside of the theme parks, because it's going to be less expensive than the theme parks. Maybe it might be on par, but it's going to be way more quality and definitely more innovative than other places. So yes, I love the food here. I can't get enough of it. Building off of that idea of food and restaurants and hidden nooks and crannies, there are a few gem communities in Orlando that I love that you should definitely look into when you're visiting here or if you're living here. Obviously, it's not just theme park areas, it's not just the places around those theme parks. There are little communities, little areas that are just really quaint and really adorable and very local feel. A couple just to name them off, Winter Garden, that's one of my favorite places in Orlando. It's super quaint and charming. It used to have like a railroad that went through it, and so there's still like a little train piece over there that you can kind of walk through, like a little museum. There's some cute coffee shops up there too. There's Accent Coffee, and then there's like an amazing French bakery up there called Rosalie. Has the best almond croissants you could find here. And then there's my favorite part, which is the theater up there, the Winter Garden Theater. And so you can get your coffee, get your dinner, and then go see a show with some of the most professional, best actors in Orlando. Obviously, Orlando's kind of little hot spot for entertainers. Lots of actors come here to work at Disney and Universal and things like that. And so those people are working at this theater as well. And they put on some really good shows. So that's one cute little area to know about. Another cute little hidden gem of a community is Winter Park. To locals, it's not a hidden gem. Everybody knows about Winter Park when you move here. But if you are out of town or you don't really know the area yet, Winter Park is a place to go for good restaurants and also really cool shopping. And it's also next to Rollins College, and Rollins is iconic and this really beautiful old college. You can walk through the campus. It's just gorgeous. So that's another place. The last place I want to mention is Lake Nona. There are other places and areas and communities you can get to know, but Lake Nona is kind of fun because it's new and it's up and coming, and they got cool stuff. There's Boxy Park, which is really neat. They put on big events and lots of good food over there too. So keep in mind of that. So that's another pro, is that it's not just tourist locations. There's some hidden gems around here that you can get to know and visit while you're here. Okay, our first con. I lumped it together into one thing, but it is kind of two separate things. Basically, it has to do with the outdoors, so I put it in one category. So yes, Florida wildlife. So let's talk about gators for a second. I personally have not seen a lot of gators here. I've lived here for about 2.5 years, and I have seen maybe 4 or 5 gators out in the wild. Doesn't mean they didn't exist. They were probably in other bodies of water. I just couldn't see them. But it's not like they're knocking on your door or like, you know, crawling through their windows at night. Like, they're not just like falling from the sky. Like, there's certain areas they might be around bodies of water and things like that. You might see one crawling somewhere, like, you know, not near a body of water, but it's kind of rare. They're not, you know, they're not just like sitting on your car waiting for you to come out of your house, you know, that sort of thing. So just be aware that they exist, and be, you know, cautious of that. Be aware of your surroundings if you're like, you know, doing some outdoor things. So don't go taking a dip in bodies of water. Most likely there's going to be a gator in there. Just assume that if there's outdoor water, there's probably a gator in there. But don't be too scared of things like that, because it's, you know, they're not like chomping at your ankles every time you walk anywhere. Just be cautious and aware of yourself. Snakes, same thing. They could be in the grass. Maybe, you know, don't go walking around in the grass with no shoes on or things like that. Just like be aware of your surroundings, and you know, don't walk through like tall grasses where you can't see the bottom. But other than that, these aren't really meant to scare you, because again, it's not like I encounter these things all the time. They just kind of exist, and they're not like super to the point of like where I'm scared for my life when I walk outside. The next thing is like bugs. So yeah, cockroaches are here, the big fatty ones, the big gross ones that, you know, we all know. And but they're not crawling up the sink or anything like that. It's not like New York where you just have cockroaches living in your place sometimes. Here, if you have a cockroach in your house, like, that's pretty rare to have that happen. That means you probably like don't live in a great house, so you can get that exterminated. We don't really have a cockroach problem because we have like pest control and stuff. And pro tip about that, just so you know, if you're here, put your cardboard boxes in your recycling bin, because cockroaches are actually attracted to the glue and the sticky stuff on tape, so that might attract them to your garage. So be aware of that. Alrighty. And the second part, weather. So yes, weather, hurricane season, storms, things like that, things that you might be kind of afraid of. I wouldn't be too afraid of it. Just be prepared if it happens. Obviously, we're in the center of the state in Orlando, so we're a little bit protected by that. Being more inland is better, but to, you know, make yourself feel a little bit better, you can have some ways to prepare for that. You can get some boards to put up your windows. You can get some hurricane shutters. You can even invest in high impact windows, and that'll make it a little sturdier, so if something hits it, it might not shatter as easily. So just be aware of those things. As far as like hurricanes go, I've been here for a while and I haven't been here for a hurricane, but I'm fine. You know, I'm not too afraid of it. I have things in place should something happen. It's been a while since a bad hurricane has happened here, so just don't be too, you know, just be prepared, and you don't have to live in fear when you're here, basically. As far as storms go, those happen a lot in the summer, obviously, stormy seasons during the summer, but usually it's just like a quick thunder and lightning storm during the day, and then it's over. So usually like 20 to 30 minutes, and then the rain clears. So yeah, Nothing too crazy, but yeah, they do exist. Warm weather, it's really hot here. Humidity is very warm. Get used to that. Some people are gonna like it more. They're gonna find it as a pro more than a con because maybe you're coming from up north where you shovel snow all day and you'd rather just sit in the sun and not worry about it. And that's where I come from too. I come from a place where it's overcast and rainy for 9 months out of the year and I never saw the sun during that time. It was really, really depressing. So I'm happy to be here where it's sunny the majority of the time and I get to enjoy that. So yeah, it could be a pro, could be a con as far as the weather goes, but it's up to you to decide and see if you enjoy like this warm weather that's constantly here. I kind of love it though. Next con, traffic. Nobody loves traffic, and there is a lot of traffic here in Orlando. Just be aware if you're going to I-4 or going anywhere on I-4 up and down that freeway, you're gonna run into some traffic. There are some areas that are more congested than others. So for example, where I live, down here in Champions Gate, exit 58 is super congested all of the time. It's really, really bad. Good news is that they are working on some different things to help free up that congestion. Right now they're working on the diverging diamond, which actually they are opening up in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully it'll all go well and it'll free up some of that really bad traffic around the area. Basically the diamond is going to go around some of that traffic and help that exit get to where they need to be. Another place is up over by Universal, like that exit 74, 72 area can be really, really bad too because we have a lot of people merging. So there's just a few little spots on I-4 that are just like, ugh, they're a lot. So hopefully some of the construction that they're doing now to sort of free up those areas will help considerably. Fingers crossed, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yes, traffic can be bad around here depending on where you're coming from. If you're thinking about moving or you already live here and you want to move to a different area, I suggest going a little bit north of the Davenport area if you're trying to get north, if you know what I mean. So if you live in Davenport and you commute a lot to like downtown or the theme parks a lot, you might want to be before that exit 58. So just so you know, there's that. Second part to that is that Orlando's not super transportation friendly and it's not very commuter friendly. So basically what that means is we don't have like a lot of bus systems or a lot of transportation systems for like public transportation. You know, we have places like New York with lots of buses and lots of subways to get you where you need to go, lots of trains and things. Seattle even isn't that bad, like we have buses and things. It's not great, but it's still better than here. Here, you're gonna have to have a car to get anywhere. It's not very it's not easily travel. You can't travel easily. That's what I'm trying to say. Unless you live downtown and you work downtown and you don't go anywhere except downtown, you're probably gonna need a car, essentially. So and even then you're probably gonna want a car because you can't live your life downtown. You have to go other places. So that's, things, our communities and our areas and our little cities are pretty far away from each other, comparison to other things, like to other cities. So you're gonna want to use your car more often. But the good news, like I said, is construction is happening. So we will see how this happens in the next couple of years and hopefully it'll get better. Obviously we had a lot of people move here in the last 2 years and so traffic has just gotten worse. So hopefully it'll get better. I'm optimistic, but we'll see. Okay, last but not least, this is kind of a pro, kind of a con. This is just an overview to get you acquainted with the area because this is going to be a big question for you if you're thinking of living or if you're thinking of moving to Orlando. Now, if you already live here, you kind of already know. You kind of already understand the affordability of living here. But if you're wanting and you're thinking of moving here, this is just an overview. So the first thing is, yes, we do have lower taxes here. It's going to be lower than most states, honestly. So the big part of that is that we don't have income tax, no state income tax, that is. So your taxes are going to be a little bit lower. That said, some other things that we have to compensate for, the fact that our roads are toll roads, so you're going to have to pay for that. So that's kind of a tax, but not, it's not like a formal tax, but that's paying for our roads. So we have a lot of toll roads here. If you're coming from some place that doesn't have a lot of toll roads, get used to that. So that's kind of a part of it. As far as the taxes go, I'm not a tax expert, but I will say that yes, our taxes are lower and there's some caveats to that as it goes. Next thing, jobs. So jobs and wages. So yes, lower taxes, lower things like that. That means our wages are lower as well. So a lot of places aren't going to pay you super well. I will say if you're thinking about living here and working at a theme park, you're probably gonna have to have a couple of roommates in order to afford to live here. Because most of the time if you are working inside the theme parks, it's gonna be about $15 an hour. They just raised that. So just so you know, that's usually the wage there, and it's not gonna be able to, you're not gonna be able to live by yourself essentially. Pro tip, if you wanna work for the theme parks, I would say go for the more corporate side of things. They're gonna pay you a little bit more. It's gonna be a little bit easier for you to live in Orlando if you're working for the actual corporation of Disney, Universal, etc. Right? It's still not great. Working for a theme park doesn't pay you very well, just so you know. So look into other corporations that reside here in Orlando, or maybe you have a current job right now that will allow you to go remote. A lot of places allow you to work from home. Obviously, we learned that in the last couple of years. So don't be afraid to ask. Like, yes, I want to stay with this company. I love this company. Can I work from home? Is it a possibility? That's one thing. You could apply for remote jobs, and now you're getting paid a higher wage, and you're living in a place that is more affordable than other places. Now, as far as what affordable means, let me get into that. Obviously, it all depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from New York, Los Angeles, Seattle, it's gonna be way more affordable, and you're like, wow, I can buy a house for this amount of money. That was not possible where I come from. And that's true for a lot of cities. So Orlando is more affordable than a lot of metropolitan cities. If you're coming from Midwest, in the middle of nowhere, 3 hours to the closest city, it's not gonna be as affordable in comparison, right? So these are just, and again, affordable, that is such a word that just, it can mean different things to different people. So this is just a general sense of what I'm kind of giving you an overview for. A housing market and renting. Renting and houses have gone up as far as purchase prices go. 2020 hit and everyone thought, you know what, I'm working from home anyway, so I am going to move to the Sunshine State where I can sit on a beach and work. And so everybody moved here. And so when that happens, there was a huge influx of prices, right? Now, our prices were down here and now they're up here, okay? So again, depends what you're comparing it to. You are living in a metropolitan city that is close to a lot of recreation and beaches and things, and so it's gonna be more expensive in general, but is it as low as it was prior to 2020? No, that's kind of the way it is. That's the state of the market right now. I won't get too far into the housing market and what that means, because honestly, it could change tomorrow. I'll give you a brief overview of what that means as far as what the housing market is right now in this time as I am filming, but just know that I don't have a crystal ball and it could all change. But just to give you an idea of what happened, everybody moved here, prices influxed, and they went skyrocketed, and sellers could ask for 20 grand over asking price, things like that. They were just like, it was crazy. So yes, our housing went up, and it was difficult for people to win offers because they're so competitive as far as like who was buying and everything. That said, things changed, and now we are veering towards a more like steady and balanced market as opposed to a really strong seller's market. Still a seller's market. It's going to be a seller's market for quite a while, or foreseeable future most likely. Doesn't mean it can all change tomorrow. Totally could. But what we're seeing now is that purchase prices are going to stay, they're gonna have a slower increase as opposed to what was happening a couple years ago, which we went from like houses being this much, and then now they're $50,000, $60,000 more. Purchase prices will go up. They're gonna keep continuing up, but just gonna be a slower drive. So we're in like a cooling period over here in Florida. It's still kind of warm, still a little bit competitive, but not quite so bad anymore. So just be aware of that. And like I said, that is the information that I have right now as far as the housing market. I work with the top team in Florida, so we keep really close touch with what the market is doing, obviously, because it's a part of our jobs. But it doesn't mean that it could change tomorrow. So if you're interested in learning more about the housing market, I'll just plug this. Feel free to email me or even comment below with, a way for me to contact you, and we can talk about it. And I can give you an idea of what the housing market is doing in real time, because obviously you might be watching this and it might change tomorrow. So just to give you that brief overview. It wasn't really brief, but hopefully it was helpful.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to contact me if you are interested in buying a home here in Orlando, or if you're interested in moving to this beautiful city. My email is kylie@themeparksforgrownups.com, or you can just hit me up on Instagram, easy peasy, @themeparksforgrownups. I'll see you in the next video, and I'll see you at the parks.